Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Trent Allan with us, round two. Trent is an entrepreneur and a CEO, Killer Whales TV contestant, which we're going to talk about. He is the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder at FX1. We're going to talk about that one today, catch up with Trent, what he's been up to. This one is presented to you by podprayer.com. If you want to start your own pods, monetize your own podcast, go to podprayer.com and call your mind. If you want to optimize your focus, your memory, and drive as a busy entrepreneur, go to neurohacker.com/CEO wisdom. Trent, welcome to the pod. Tell me
Thank
a
you.
bit more about yourself again and what you've been up to since last time we spoke.
All right, well, first, thanks for having me again. It's good to chat. So, what I've been up to a lot, life. Got just had my second daughter 5 weeks ago, maybe 7 weeks ago. So, two kids now, and that's added a bit of a complexity to things, but enjoying life, enjoying the struggle, the challenge that every day brings, and working to just be the best person I can be every day, trying to improve myself, on a personal level as well as a business level. And there's always a challenge, right? Like this is a lifelong learning experience life, and I'm always trying to optimize, do what I can, look after people, and just knock every day out of the park. That's the goal. So
There you go. And you've got your sauna and cold plunge since last time we spoke. So how are you using both of these to optimize yourself on a daily basis?
yeah, so I think that we I think as humans are too comfortable. We wake up, we put on warm clothes when it's cold, we have a warm shower, we eat the food that we want to eat that's tasty, we drink what we want to drink that's tasty. Life's too easy. And we need things that push us. And that's what the sauna does, and that's what the cold plunge does. The cold plunge makes you very, very cold. It's uncomfortable. And the sauna, after being in there for 5-10 minutes makes you also very uncomfortable. And so I first learned about the sauna from Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She's a PhD. She's in the health space. She actually lives here in San Diego. And after hearing about the sauna from her and hearing the studies that had been done, the cited studies, the evidence was evidently clear for me. I needed to get in more saunas. And so eventually, after moving to the US, I need to buy one because unlike Australia, there's not a lot of sauna places around here. You can't really go to a venue or a fitness center to get a sauna. They're not really there. They're in certain places, like wellness places, but not something you could go every day. So really, the main thing you're going to do is just buy one. So I put my money where my health is. And I said, let's go get a sauna. So I did that, got a sauna, and then also invested in a cold plunge. So the routine I have is that the cold plunge is a morning thing. I think it's better to do in the morning because, at night it can affect your sleep if you do it too close to sleep. So every morning I wake up, it's one of the hardest things I do before I get in, but after I get out, I feel amazing. I feel ready to go get the day. There's, again, a lot of science and studies behind cold exposure. Andrew Huberman is one guy that has brought those studies to life and shown dopamine. Dopamine is a unique thing in our body, and one way to optimize, or the best way to optimize dopamine is through cold exposure. And so there's studies that dopamine will last 2 to 3 hours after you have cold exposure. And I feel it after I get out of there. I'm ready to do whatever the day needs me to do. So it's the cold plunge in the morning and the sauna in the afternoon. Pretty much every day they're daily things, although sometimes I skip a day or two. But yeah, they're great. Anyone that's interested, I'd say follow Andrew Huberman for the cold exposure stuff. There's a great podcast he has on dopamine. Go look that up on his channel. Highly suggest you listen to that. And also Rhonda Patrick, she talks about a lot of things, one of them being saunas and just the effects that saunas have on our bodies. They're really, really good for you. They make you happier. There's a lot of science behind happiness and saunas. So yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm glad that I now have the access to them, and it's definitely part of my routine daily.
Have another unexpected one. A motocross. I bought a motocross last weekend, and that thing will put you to many near-death experiences and put you in the present moment. So yeah, didn't expect that this one would be a biohack, but generally facing your fears, right? Like You know, that you and I were boxers as well, and when you get punched in the face, you know that the classic human reaction is to be scared, you know, and to have cortisol spike up. What do you think of putting yourself in dangerous but controlled situations and thriving off those as a fear destroying activity?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic you bring up because it's inherently what I believe in. It comes back to the sauna and the cold plunge. It's just that thing, that idea of us needing to push ourselves. You know, you think about where we came from as hunter and gatherers, where we spent a lot of time, right? It was a big phase of the not just Homo sapiens, but Neanderthals and those before us. Hunter and gathering was a huge aspect of the human life. And, you know, we only knew 50 or 60 people, and we did a lot of fitness and we had a lot of stress. We're constantly worried, and there was a lot of sickness, a lot of early deaths. The medicine wasn't there, right? So it wasn't a perfect time to live, but there were a lot of stress. We had to work, we had to run, we had to feed our families, and we had to stay away from danger. And there was a lot of danger. Death was a constant threat. And so I think that while it's great to live in the modern world where death is less of a threat, depending on, of course, where you live, then we need to find ways to push ourselves, whether that is doing something that feels a little bit dangerous, whether it's taking that risk, whether it's starting that business that you always wanted to start, but you never had the wherewithal or the guts or the want to go and start. It's about the unknown and diving into the unknown, you know? So I think there's a lot there. You could talk a lot about just that in terms of people searching for that unknown and not and being uncomfortable with it, knowing that, hey, I back myself, I back my ability to do what I need to do. So just go and do it. You know, whether that is jumping on a bike or whether it is doing something that is scary. I think we need more of it. Of course, practice, you know, be sensible, look after yourselves, but I think we need more of it. I think we've become too soft as human beings. I think we need more of the hard stuff in our lives. And I think it's the people that put themselves in those hard positions, whether it's going for a role at a company that they're unsure of that really pushes them, or it's going and doing a fitness challenge, or it's going and doing something like jumping in really, really cold water every day. We need more things that push us. We need more things that make us nervous because ultimately that's where happiness comes from, I believe. It's where fulfillment comes from at the end of the day. When I know that I've done the things that made me nervous and the things that I didn't really want to do, but I knew I should do them, that's it. Like if I just can keep doing that for the rest of my life, I know I'm going to leave a long and fulfilling life because I know I can do the things that you know, I at the start I may not want to do, but I get myself to do them. So I think there's definitely a lot in that.
Because that was my next question. Do you feel fulfillment out of life? Because sometimes when I'm listening to you, I'm like, yeah, Trent is imposing lots of hardships on himself, but I'm the same, you know? It's funny how
Yeah.
we don't look on ourselves and evaluate ourselves from a different perspective. But yeah, does the enjoyment comes from imposing pain on you first? Like I've heard George St. Pierre say that, yeah, there's no pleasure without pain. Do you believe that?
I think there is pleasure without pain. I know I don't think I inherently agree with that, but I do know that there is a lot of things that do require pain for you to achieve. And it's not just for pain's sake. Like if you want pain, you can go grab a knife and stab yourself, right? That's going to be painful. But is that going to be helpful? No. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would be helpful for anybody. So it's not just about the pain, it's about what you're doing with that pain and how you're using that pain. Whether it's, and it usually has to be for something you want to achieve or something you strive for. So I think and then a lot of the good things in life require pain, right? They require sacrifice. They require you to give up certain things that you want. You know, if you want to build a startup, if you want to go and build something, you have to sacrifice a lot of things. You know, you may not be able to go and do all the things that you usually were able to do when you're just working a 9 to 5 job. And with that comes sacrifice, it comes pain, it comes, you know, you giving up certain things within your life. But and that sometimes is associated with pain. So I think most things do require you to do things that you don't want to do. So that whole thing of someone saying, I want to be an actress or a movie star or I want to be an athlete. most people don't actually want that. Most people want the end game. That they want the limelight. They want to be there raising their hand. They want to be there getting the trophy or the award. People, but that's not what it is. The real bit is the hard work that no one sees. It's the weeks and months and years of constant failure, constant pushback. That's the work. That's the athlete. That's the actor. That's the actress. It's not the end result that is what it is. Is what it is the stuff that nobody sees, which is the hard stuff. So you've got to want to be able to go through that. That's what I think. You've got to realize that it's not going to be easy, but it's not meant to be easy, right? Because you hear a lot of people when they get older and people on their deathbeds and they talk about what's important to them. And really it comes back to a few things like families making sure they looked after people, as well as doing what they wanted to do, fulfilling their mission, having no regrets, right? And I think that I'm not going to die with any regrets because I'm really pushing myself and I push myself every day. And even if I were to pass away tomorrow, I'd be happy with what I've done because I know that, since I was young, I've been constantly stretching for the next thing and trying to push myself and doing whatever I need to do. Like one of my values is that I can push through pain. It's that I will achieve my goals and I'll be able to push through pain in order to achieve those goals. So it's definitely one of my mantras and something that I constantly work for.
And how do you make sure that you're on the right path? Let's take your actual business, FX1. How are you sure that this is a good thesis and that you're maximizing the monetary potential on that one?
Yeah. So if you talk about business in general, I think that, you look at, we have KPIs and we have indicators that tell us if we're successful. Like in life in general, income, money is one factor. In business, income, is a factor. If you're building a startup and you're not generating revenue, you're a traditional consumer startup, then, retention and other metrics are important because they tell you they're kind of the metric that comes before you eventually get to revenue. So the way I think about it is, how do you know? Well, you need KPIs, you need indicators that tell you you're on the right track, whether that's you personally or that's a business. Every business should have a few KPIs they look at. One simple one may be revenue. What's the revenue for the month? What's the revenue for the quarter? But if you don't have revenue or you are a smaller business, then you could look at the other things that indicate that you are achieving success. How many calls are you making on a daily basis? How many meetings are you booking? Like, what are those leading indicators that are going to lead to the end result that you want to get to? So I think it is big about KPIs and targets and setting those down because they're going to point you in the right direction, right? So I think if the question was about knowing that you're on the right track, I think it's, you've got to know what you want to achieve. Like, and I know this, it's when people do in presenting, I've done a lot of public talking and public presenting, and the strategy on how to present well is often, I apply it to life as well. So the analogy goes like this: most presenters are here and their object is here, right? So they want to get over here, and instead of just going in a straight line to where they want to get to, they are going like this. They talk about things during the presentation that have no meaning to the end result. And so what they should do is get clear on what the message they're trying to present and trying to explain, and just get straight to that. Continue to talk about that and don't talk about anything that does not directly support that mission. I think it's the same in life. Like, we often go, what's our vision? What are we trying to achieve? We often do things that do not help that end goal at all. And we think it's helping, but if you really think about it, it's not helping. So I think it's about cutting out all the crap, cutting out the things that don't work, and making sure you understand what does and doesn't work, and then going and working on the high return things, because it's the high return things that are actually going to get you that result. So that's how I kind of think about it. It's back to the 80-20 rule. We're always doing things that don't really matter and wasting time checking email too much. And so I think as a business, as an entrepreneur, you need to be thinking about what are the things that are important in the business and only work on that. And yeah, you'll have to do some other things. Like, you eventually have to check email and you have to get back to people and things like that. But your morning time or your core work time, if that's morning or really late at night, for some people that is the case, make sure that that's spent on the most important things, the things that are going to, in what I'd say, move a needle, right? What are the things that are going to actually move the business forward? And what does that need? What does the business really need you to work on and do those things and do them really, really well? Because the rest of it No, it's not going to really make a difference, right? So it really comes back to, again, every business is different, but knowing what are the objectives of the business, what does the business need right now, and ensuring you put all your good time, your best hours of your day into that, and making sure you do that really, really, really well, so you can move that needle and get the business to where you need to get it to.
And FX1, tell us about the concept. Seems that it changed from the last time that I've checked. We have this video on your website. It's quite fascinating. And yeah, that was probably the best fight ever.
Yeah, it
Or
was a
best
crazy fight,
finish.
wasn't it?
Um, so yeah, you're like tracking the strikes literally in real time. Like I think that's what fans want, like what are the current functions of the app, and then what are you aiming for in the future?
Yeah, so it's been a long ride with FX1, almost 5 years in the making. We've been through a lot and really, just progressing. And so we've had to bounce off a few walls to get to where we are. We started pre-COVID and we had to go through COVID with everything shut down. And we eventually found ourselves in the combat sports space, focusing on UFC and mixing that with computer vision and AI. So we have a computer vision model set that is able to watch fights in real time, and we're able to track certain events. So currently we're tracking strikes and kicks. We're also tracking speed and force of strikes. So, a lot of people do this manually. A lot of sports, including the UFC, still have people that sit there and then track these stats, but we're bringing technology to the game to try and automate that, to make it more accurate and better, more accurate in real time, and then provide that experience to the users so that people can get those real-time stats. They can understand how the fight is really progressing versus just, watching the fight and maybe not knowing who's winning. So we aim to show who the winner is, show it with stats and with data, as well as provide an enhanced experience for people that are watching the fight, especially if they're not at the live stadium watching the fight, if they're at home. The app and FX1 is a place to engage them, make it a more entertaining experience, allow you to chat with friends, as well as get real-time stats, analytics to better understand how that fight is progressing. Whether you are placing wagers on sports, because we do have predictions, we are working to predict who's going to win fights based on historic data and the data that's generated real time. So it's about bringing that all together, making a good experience for the user as well as knowing that there's an opportunity to on-sell that data to certain companies looking for that type of data.
And from your predictions, you think, or at least FX1 thinks that Tyson's gonna win over Jake Paul?
Yeah, it's a good question. We haven't got, I know that is a goal for the company to get our AI coverage for that fight. It is boxing, so it's, out of our playing field at the moment because we are really focused on the UFC. But I think we would need to do work on that to figure out what our models say about who's going to win that. But I think the challenge you've got is that Tyson's been out of the game for so long. He's really old, and if I know that in data, when you're looking at data and doing prediction modeling, recency matters, right? Like, so if you look at the history of a fighter, the fights that they had like 10 years ago, you would still include them in the model, but you wouldn't apply as much weight to them because they were so long ago, right? And things change over time. You're more interested in the recency stats. Like, what are the fights that happened recently? Because they show more where a fighter is at. Problem with Tyson is that he hasn't fought in a long, long time. So I think building a model set on that particular fight, given it's a bit of an anomaly, will be really, really difficult because of the fact that you've only got one fighter that has had, recent history. So I think it could be anyone's fight. I do think if it goes the distance, it will be Jake Paul's fight. I do not think Tyson will beat this guy on points. Jake Paul is a really good fighter. Love it. Love him or hate him. He surprised me in how good he's become as a boxer. So he's really up there. He's got good skills. He's strong. He's powerful. He's got good movement. But he is fighting Tyson, someone that, you would never write off. But there's a lot of unknown with Tyson because he's just been out of the game for so long. And, he's old now. Like, can he come back and beat his best? And can he do it for the full length of the fight? And yeah, that's the question. I think he's going to have to knock Jake Paul out. He's going to have to catch him with one of his left hooks, maybe early in the first round or second round, and hurt Jake Paul. I'm thinking if he can do that, the odds for him to win the fight will increase. But off the bat, I think you're going to see that Jake Paul is a heavy favorite in the fight.
Yeah, same here. What do you think of bare knuckle fighting as a sport and slap fighting?
Bare knuckle fighting is the future of boxing. That's how much I believe in it. It's the UFC 20 years ago. Yeah, so I'll put that out there. I really believe in that sport. I think that's where boxing needs to go. And if anyone here hasn't seen bare knuckle fighting, go and watch it. It's what it is. It's UFC, but with no kicks or grappling or anything like that. It's just boxing without gloves. That's the better way to put it. They've got wraps on, but that's it. It's just like the cloth wrap. You would think that there'd be knockouts all the time, but there's not. There are knockouts, but what you'll find is that, like the UFC, they're careful because they know that any like strike can knock them out. So they're more strategic, and I find they're more strategic fights. I think that in a lot of respects they're better fights. One, because it has a model where you can't pick who you fight, and boxing has that problem where you can actually choose who you fight and you can skip the good fighters, right? So a lot of the best fights in boxing never happen because you can choose who you fight. But in the UFC, that's not the case, right? You are forced to fight certain people to get to the top. And that's the same in bare knuckle fighting. It's the same model as UFC, no gloves. I think it's great. I think it's got a big future. I'm a big believer in that sport. I think it's got a long way to go. Slap fighting, nah, me personally, I think there's a lot of good combat sports out there. I think I'll stick with boxing, bare knuckle, and the UFC for now.
Slap has something to it though, and some genius to it, right? It's taking what's most exciting in UFC, gay knockouts, and just compacting it. It's like hardcore porn for people that watch it. Unfortunately, right? I think fans
Interesting way
don't
to put it. Yeah.
yeah, they don't appreciate like the full thing, that the technicality in fighting, dodging, having the cardio, putting on strategy, right? I mean, in slapping, there's not much strategy. Maybe get slapped a lot of time and develop a bigger bone cavity when you receive the slap. And I mean, when you slap someone, well, make sure to knock that person out. But I think it's really compacting the unfortunate joy that people get from seeing humans knock the fuck out.
Yeah.
And
It's definitely a market for it. It's a growing sport. It's not my thing, but I do see a future for it because there's people watching it. Dana White owns one of the leagues, right? He sees value in it. So I think there's something there, but I think it's going to be a niche audience. I can't see it becoming a mainstream thing, but I do believe it's got some legs in it. I think it can go further than where it is at the moment.
there you go. Well, Trent, thanks for today. Where can we find out more about you?
You can catch me. I'm on X, 20 cents. I'm on LinkedIn. Just search for me, Trent Allan. And otherwise, you can go to my website, trentallan.com, and you can just see a bit more about me there. And otherwise, yeah, look forward to hearing you. If you're on LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, follow me. I do post somewhat frequently, although lately I have kind of not been so active. But yeah, I'm online. Search for me, you'll find me. And yeah,